Welcome to the Art of Spiritual Living online retreat. My name is Elizabeth Foley. I'm an artist and a creative catalyst. I help women get over their creative blocks and get in touch with their inner creative spirit. I'm super excited that you're here with us today and really excited to share today's speaker, Lorraine Cohen, with you. But before we get started, as usual, I just want to take a moment to really get present here so that we can get the most out of this experience today. So first step, of course, is getting your physical space ready. I can tell you every time I talk to Lorraine, it's a really deep dive with lots of ahas. So you want to make sure you've got your journal with you, got some coloring goodies to take some notes. Go ahead and make sure your physical space is ready. You know, put the do not disturb sign on the door if you need to. Go ahead and turn off your phone, turn off your other apps so you can really just be present and get focused. And next step to getting present is, of course, getting our mental space ready. So if you've been on some of the other sessions, you know I like to chant Om, so we're going to do that. But for those of you that haven't been on another session, just a really quick overview of what chanting Om is all about. So the sound Om is the sound of creation. It's the first sound, the universal sound. And when we chant it, you know, following that sound inward can really help us just slow down and get present. So first of all, when we chant, the sound Om is actually 3 sounds. And the first sound is going to be, you're going to feel it right here in your neck. And that's going to be with an open mouth, Oh. And then the second sound, you're going to feel the vibration here in your neck. And that's with a more closed mouth, and that sound is more ooh. And then we've got the last sound, and you're going to feel that vibrating down here in your chest. Mm. So when you put it all together, it sounds like this. Om. And when we chant Om, what we're going to do is we're going to start by just taking a couple deep breaths, and then we'll inhale together, and as we exhale, we'll chant Om. And we'll do that 3 times with just an inhale, a deep inhale in between, and then exhaling the Om. So I'm just going to invite you now to join me, close your eyes, and just let yourself be fully present in this moment, tuning into your breath. Just taking a couple of deep breaths. Now let's inhale in together, and we exhale. We'll exhale Om. 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 You can open your eyes when you're ready. So today we have with us Reverend Lorraine Cohen. She's internationally recognized for her soul power coaching, quantum energy healing, and intuitive readings. She's an international best-selling co-author of 2 anthologies, Unwavering Strength Volume 2, and Embraced by the Divine, The Emerging Women's Gateway to Power, Passion, and Purpose. She's an internationally published feature writer with Bella Mia magazine. Lorraine uses her highly attuned spiritual, intuitive, and healing gifts to support conscious women to dive deep into self-love and transmute past emotional wounds into wisdom, compassion, and power. And like I was saying earlier, every time I talk with Lorraine, it's just a really deep dive, and I have all kinds of ahas. Today we're talking about health and how our emotions affect us spiritually, physically, you know, how our emotions affect our whole being. And I want to get started with just saying, with asking Lorraine, like I've been asking everybody, Lorraine, what does spiritual living mean to you?
That's a nice deep question as well, Elizabeth. And so for me, it's really about living from your heart and allowing that the inner brilliance that lives in us, through us, as us, to be the guiding light in our path, to be the go-to internal GPS, if you will, in the way in which we navigate this world, and to allow the brilliance of our mind to take the practical steps in order to move through the different choices and decisions that we make. And so this is where I see where we're shifting in the world right now, is living from a spirit, living from our divine essence. And when we live from that place, that's where we tap into the magic. So it's an exciting time to be alive. And there's a lot of shifts that are happening for people. And that's why I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about today. I know we're going to be talking about our health and how our emotions affect our health.
Well, the way that I approach my own spiritual life and the work that I do with clients is realizing that we have 4 bodies. We have an emotional body, a mental body, physical, and a spiritual body. And when all parts of ourselves are working in harmony, that's where we experience the joy, the abundance, the flow, the vibrant health, the vitality, all the things that I think all of us are wanting. And as we have that willingness to look a little bit more deeply inside of ourselves, I think that, you know, as we've grown up, being encouraged to work with our emotions, to look at some of those deeper places. I didn't grow up with that. I grew up in an environment, my parents grew up in the Depression, and so it was, you know, do what you need to do. We didn't talk about emotions. We didn't talk about feelings. We didn't have any idea the impact of our emotions on our mental thoughts and the way that we felt physically. And there certainly wasn't any spiritual conversation. So as I've been on my own personal journey and seen the interrelationship of how all of our bodies work together, it has shown me where there are clues to look in terms of getting answers to questions that have baffled people. Why is my life so difficult? Why am I not feeling well? Why do I keep bumping up against the same patterns? Why do I feel that I'm doing everything right, but my life isn't changing? And so a lot of times those aren't the right questions to ask, and we're not looking in the right places. And there also has to be a willingness to roll up your sleeves. And, you know, as you said, our conversations we've dived deep. I don't know how to not dive deep, because that's where the juicy bits are found, and that's where we soar in our lives. So we have to be willing to look into some of the places that we don't want to look, because that's where we get free.
Yeah. You know, I hear what you're saying about the way we grew up. You know, I was definitely grew up, first of all, as a kid, I was taught to, you know, children are to be seen and not heard. And we definitely weren't supposed to talk about our emotions, you know, especially not the bad ones. You know, those we were just supposed to kind of stuff away and pretend like they weren't there. And I know that that is not healthy for us, and in more than just the mental way, you know.
Yeah. When I was focusing primarily as a psychotherapist in a recovery center, working with thousands of people during my 10 years, I learned a ton about myself, and I learned so much about the capacity of the human spirit to endure trauma and difficulty, and how they were able to sustain moving through those periods, and the cost. And, you know, certainly not limited to somebody who's dealing with an addiction. I think it's true as a humanity. We are clearing so many patterns and so many beliefs that have been handed down from generation, that are part of cultural conditioning, that's part of our own personal experiences, that we have not had the tools to be able to really work through. And so, you know, we can't stop living in our lives. We have to pack it somewhere. We have to push it down somewhere. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy that we're not even aware of, that we're using day to day, to ensure that some of those thoughts and those feelings don't come to the surface. And of course they do you know, when life experiences mirror some things that have happened in the past where we're holding on to things, that's where we find ourselves creating drama and having a lot of reactions that we oftentimes don't understand and don't know what to do with. That's what I love about the work that I do, because it has taught me so much about myself, and it has really taught me how many blessings emerge when you are willing to go the distance, when you you don't shy away from looking at whatever it is that may feel uncomfortable. That so often, Elizabeth, people don't even know what's there and they won't go there. And so wherever you go, you take yourself with you. It's not like you ever really outrun yourself. And so this is a time of mastery for all of us, that we are learning our own capacity, and we're learning how to heal, we're learning how to love, and we're learning that we don't have to do this alone. And we're learning how to do it in ways that's not about tools and techniques. We're learning how to do it energetically in ways that are truly freeing our hearts to experience more love and abundance, all the things that we want. This is what's coming through right now with so many people that are bringing through incredible healing modalities and processes, not techniques, but ways in which we are really finding how to become our own advocates, how to find our own power, and how to release faster, more gently, and with a lot more grace. That's what I'm about.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about your belief that love and compassion is the answer to sustaining vibrant health and creating abundance in our lives.
When I look at, you know, we can talk about and look at all the things on Facebook that says love is the answer and love is the essence of who you are, and the power of love moves mountains. One of the things that in my own health journey was this quote that I saw from Christiane Northrup, who is very, very well known in the health arena. And one of the things that she said is that, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it exactly committed to memory, is that aside from all of the different medical approaches and supplements and techniques, that the most powerful healing comes from the connection that we have with who and whatever God is. It's through the process of divine love. It is the most potent and powerful transformative energy that exists anywhere. And where I see people in so much pain is the inability to love themselves. And if we cannot feel good about ourselves, and this has been plaguing humanity for the longest time, as people struggling with not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough. You know, if only I had did this, if only I was better. And certainly we've grown up with those messages in a variety of different ways, where we have learned to doubt our own capacity and our brilliance. If we could see ourselves through the eyes of spirit, of the divine, of Jesus, whoever you call it, we would see nothing but our magnificence, our beauty, because we are, in truth, a perfect reflection of the divine. So how could we be anything less? But we have been taught to believe that we are less than by all the different people and situations that have represented authority, who have defined us. So when you start to question these areas, you have to start looking at how much you love yourself, how open your heart is. You know, because when we're in pain, when we're in distress, one of the ways that we protect ourselves is to close off our heart. You know, if we've been in relationships that haven't worked well and we've experienced hurt, we pull back. And what we don't realize is that in any ways that our hearts have had to shut, possibly for protection, possibly because we never really had the nurturing for our hearts to open, or whatever that reason is, we are literally cutting ourselves off from a stream of healing that is so powerful. So love is not only the answer, it's the path. And compassion is part of the ability to have and extend mercy to another. You know, who among us in our lifetime has not betrayed another, has not done something that has been hurtful, has not shown up to be the best. So our capacity to have that compassion for others, to see ourselves in somebody else's struggle, to realize that hurt people, and that we, underneath all of this, as part of the spiritual journey, are these amazing beings walking around in physical bodies, and we are having experiences. And so love and compassion are the only keys in which true healing can happen. And without that, then we are caught in anger and resentments and guilt and fear and pain, something that we're going to be talking about a little bit more. And those create the breeding ground for chronic pain and illness and disease to fester. And there's evidence of so many people who are showing up with illnesses and disease. More and more people are showing up with this, and there's a reason for that. That's something, if we are truly to experience our capacity to be vibrantly alive and healthy and whole, we have to look at what's going on, and we have to look at ourselves.
Yeah, I love that saying. It's so simple, that hurt people hurt people. It's so simple, but it's so true. And it's so easy to forget that, you know. It's so easy to go throughout your life and have something happen where somebody hurts you, and to get angry and mad and frustrated with the person, and forget that, you know, everything, like the Course in Miracles says, that everything is an act of love or an appeal for love. And when we look at things from that direction, it can really help us have a lot more compassion for the people in our lives that do hurt us, because you're not going through life in relationships with people without getting hurt, you know?
Well, one of the ways that I look at situations is that we're always working for each other. And when we react to how somebody shows up, we don't know what that person has been through. We don't know what has happened to them. We don't know anything really about them. So the questions that we can ask is, I wonder what has happened to this person that has caused them to show up in the way that they do. We don't have that capacity to really know that. And that's where love and compassion comes in, because it doesn't excuse the behavior, but what it does is it broadens our perspective of understanding that there's more to the story than we realize. And, you know, again, coming back to how we show up, none of us has ever always been at our best. And isn't that something that we would wish would be extended to us as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I really like that. That's such a simple question. What has happened to cause them to act like this?
Yeah.
I can see how going there instead of going, why the heck are they doing this to me, would just bring me so much more peace in my life, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And especially imagining the moments behind the wheel that I'm not super proud of sometimes.
Well, we are still human, Elizabeth. You know, we're not doing it perfectly yet, but we can use these experiences to ask different questions and to turn the attention inward, because, you know, as people are consistently working for us, they're showing us where we've got our blind spots. It's our willingness to look and to turn our attention to ourselves, as opposed to continuing to focus outside. That's where we get a lot of the nuggets that we're missing.
Yeah.
You know, I talk a lot about how emotions get stuck in the body. I'm just going to jump to this. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, please do. Yeah.
I am almost a broken record, I guess, in talking about how important it is to do the inner work. And in my journey, as I work with people on all aspects of health, because again, that's what our life is about, all of our four bodies working synergistically to create every level of health that we would potentially want. And to think of our lives as being healthy and wealthy and abundant and rich, all of that really comes together. And what I have found is, you know, even in my own journey, and I don't know whether you're familiar with this, I've talked about this prior, but in 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things that I looked at immediately, because of the work that I do and what I understand, is I believe wholeheartedly that at the genesis of any disease or illness is an emotional component. And it's our body's way of literally screaming, you need to look at this. And I began to look at where I was holding on to unforgiveness. And the ways that became clues was through repressed anger and resentment and guilt that is held for long periods of time that don't get released. One of the people who has really heralded this way of thinking about ourselves is Louise Hay, who was diagnosed with cancer decades ago. Her book, You Can Heal Your Life, really highlighted that those three in particular, repressed anger, guilt, and resentments, create the breeding ground for people to experience chronic pain, illness, and disease. And so she came up with a list of affirmations, which was a great way to start. But what's important to also understand is that we can say affirmations and only about 5% actually, is controlled by our consciousness. 95% is with the unconscious. So it doesn't go down deep enough. And just saying that you love yourself, for anybody who's ever worked with wanting to shift self-love or to forgive themselves, you can say that and say that and say that and say that. But if you don't feel it, if you still have emotional reactions and charges going on, you haven't gotten to that place of forgiveness. So it's an ongoing journey. And we can tell when we have truly forgiven, when we feel a sense of peace. When we feel, I once heard somebody say that if you could kiss the feet of the person that you were harboring resentments towards and feel love for them, then you know that you have come to that place of peace. And if you could look at yourself in the mirror and truly say, Elizabeth, I love you, and feel that deeply in your heart every single day, then that's an indication of how open your heart is. I consistently find layers and layers of repressed resentments and guilt and anger and unforgiveness, and that is festering. I think I shared with you, after the first cancer diagnosis, I was diagnosed 3 more times. And I came back and I thought to myself, okay, obviously I'm needing to be very thorough about something. And there's been so many blessings that have come along the way, and really learning my capacity to do certain things. I've made huge changes with my, with my nutrition and how I care for myself and loving myself, and all the different ways that I've described that's important to look at health. And I've done a ton of clearing. And, I'm saying this because I'm sure that there will be people who will be listening to this who may be dealing with something that they have been working with for a period of time and feeling, I have approached this every which way and I still don't get why I haven't completely cleared that. So to you, I am saying there are layers to things. And it's not that we don't experience any benefit or any relief along the way as we're clearing and we're making the changes that we know that we need to do emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. That there may be some pieces to it that we're still holding on to, that we need to go deeper. And that's what happened to me last Friday. I was working with a colleague because, I don't do all this stuff myself, even though I can certainly process myself as part of my own gifts, but we can get in our way better than anyone. And sometimes we've got our own blind spots that we need the support of somebody else. And I touched on a piece of anger that I had never, ever, I never saw in quite that way. And it was something that I needed to verbalize out loud. And I had so much shame that came up because I didn't want to say what I knew that I needed to say, because it was the truth and it wasn't compassionate. And what I have come to appreciate, Elizabeth, is that when we're unpacking things, there can be a part of us that understands, like we're saying, hurt people, and I understand that, and I can see the struggle that somebody's in. And then there could be a young part, a child part, that just doesn't give a crap about any of that, because there are feelings that are being held, that need to express, that need to be heard, that don't have that level of compassion and understanding. And that's part of the journey, that we need to create space for everything that is true, everything to be heard, to be respected, to be loved and nurtured for what it is, for healing to really be fully effective. And once I allowed that to happen, I could feel the relief. I could feel the release. And I could also feel the exhaustion of the energies that I have been holding on to, that have been keeping it at bay for 30 years. That's how powerful we are.
Wow. Yeah. It's so true, because we can't just, sometimes you can kind of spiritually stuff things, by focusing on compassion. You end up not dealing with the emotions.
Right.
So I know that when we spoke before, Lorraine, you had some questions for me that really just got us right to the heart of forgiveness. Are you ready to go into those?
I am, because I think that they are absolutely juicy. So as promised, I always want to create an experience for people so that you have some takeaways from this. And maybe in listening to some of these questions, you'll actually have a release. And so that is the space I'm holding for you as well. So if you've resonated with some of what we've talked about today, I invite you to think about something that you might be dealing with in your life right now. It might be as a result of a decision that you made that has created a hardship or a difficulty. It may be a health condition that you're working with that feels intense or heavy. It can be something that you judge or you blame yourself for. Just think of anything. And one of the examples that I tend to use so often with people is some issue that relates to money, a decision. So I invite you that if you're dealing with a financial hardship, and that's where you've got some resentments and some anger, maybe that will be the example that you use. So just take a moment, take a breath, and rest into whatever it is that you've chosen. And just know that if nothing immediately came to mind, that you'll have access to this video again and you can see if something else comes up. But for now, just rest into something, or just maybe invite your spirit to bring something up for you that you're holding on to that you may be unaware of. Just take a couple of breaths. And whatever comes to mind, let your attention focus on some of the choices and the decisions that you've made that relate to that situation, the reasons why you made them. Most of the time when there's a situation that is creating this pain and discomfort, the person that we harbor the greatest anger and upset with is ourselves. So this is really about forgiving yourself, okay? So I invite you to feel some of these questions deeply into your heart, and even just keep your eyes closed if you like, so that you can be fully present. So as you keep your attention on whatever situation you're focused on, what if the decisions you made that created this situation, that perhaps you thought was intuitively guided, or that you confidently felt was right for you, but then you realized that the decision was really coming from a place of fear and desperation, not really from that place of strength and clarity. Could you forgive yourself? And just take a breath into that. I'm going to ask a few more questions. And what if the situation was one that you brilliantly designed for the sole purpose of waking you up and bringing you closer to the truth of who you are and your divinity? What if you designed this so brilliantly so that it would break your heart open, would break down some of your defenses because you were yearning to reunite with your divinity and remember who you truly are? Could you forgive yourself? And what if you came into this life with this situation already predestined because there were certain experiences you needed to fulfill your soul's evolution and your life purpose for humanity? Could you forgive yourself for that? And here's one more question. And what if you created certain experiences so that you could be a guide for others who were going to be going through similar challenges? Because you had been there and done that, you could help other people navigate that same terrain with courage and power so that you could be a shining light to help others find their way through the darkness. And if that were true, could you forgive yourself? And if you said yes to one or more of those questions, what would you be thinking and saying to yourself that might be more loving, gentle, and compassionate right now? And just breathe into all of that. Notice any body sensations or any shifts. Notice what came up for you. The Ho'oponopono prayer is a beautiful prayer that invites us to put our hands over our heart by saying, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. This is a beautiful prayer, a practice of reconciliation and forgiveness, not only with others, it can be with yourself or anything that you're struggling with in your life. Let love be your guide. It is the answer, it is the connection, and it is the way. And the first place to start is to have a willingness to forgive, to love. And the next steps will show up as you continue to live a life of spirit and authenticity. You'll be shown the way, and you can trust that. You are so loved, more loved than you could ever imagine, and you are never, ever alone.
Wow. I was worried that partway through there I was going to be crying when I had to talk again.
I was choking up myself, so.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lorraine. That really, really hit home for me.
You're welcome. I love doing this work with clients because it is so, it's very sacred work to come to this place of being able to realign with our hearts. And this is where we are in the world right now. We're continually being brought back to our heart, and letting go of what we're holding on to, so that we can continue to ascend energetically into higher states of consciousness and five-dimensional living. We're talking about it. We're actually in that. We're straddling several worlds right now, or several levels of consciousness. So, we have to do this work, in my opinion. And it's important to not try to do it by yourself, to work with people who have been there and done that and understand that. And it's one of the greatest gifts of self-love, is to allow yourself to look inside and let go of who you are not, so that you can let your truest self fully emerge and start to experience the greatest life, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to be happy, to be abundant, not to be in pain, not to be in struggle. That's not why we're here. Mm-hmm. We're breaking barriers now. This is the time. And, one final thing, I know that we're running a little bit over. There's a lot of intensity in the world right now, and some people I know are struggling with it. If we are to walk around and saying that we are here to be the change and that love is the answer, this is practice time. This is how we develop mastery, is as we view and experience all the upheaval, all of the difficulty, all of the anger, all of the dissent. This is where we need to take a stand for love and be that, not just lip service, live it. And so don't shy away from things. Don't judge things. Don't react to things. This is what we have called forth, to bring love into the world. And in order to do it, you have to be the living demonstration of it. That's what the spiritual journey is about.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, we have just a few moments left, Lorraine, but I know that you said that you wanted to give an energy healing to everybody, and I want everybody to have that experience.
That's my pleasure.
Before we do that, I know that there's people here that when I say energy healing, they're going, uh-oh, she just got really airy-fairy on me. So tell us a little bit about what's energy healing?
Well, there's many ways that, you can look at it. It's actually just tapping into divine love. Mm-hmm. And because of my connection, I'm certainly not the only one. Many of us have different modalities. People are out there doing a lot of energy treatments, Reiki, quantum healing, all of those types of modalities are really tapping into the frequencies of divine love. We're energy beings. We live in an energy universe. And, just looking at before anything takes form, it first starts with an idea. If you've ever walked into a room where there has been tension, you can feel the tension. It's energy. If you've walked into a room where there has been love, there's lightness. So the more we become aware, the more sensitive we become attuned to feeling the energy all around us, including the energies inside of ourselves. So what I do is I really tap into higher vibrations of divine love, and they move through my body. I can feel that. What has also helped me to do that is my own work in raising my own consciousness. When you clear that space, your vibrations lift. So some of you may experience this energy of love that I'm going to be sending. Some of you may not. Please know that whenever I send it, it's always received as long as you're open. If you're not comfortable, then just say no, thank you. And I will have that embedded in the video as well. So I feel the energy is already starting to stream. I'm gonna just ask my guidance, the team that I work with, to stream it for about a minute. Otherwise, this could go on for a while. So I'm gonna be silent until I feel it start to peter. Let this be a blessing of divine love and grace for you, to support you in whatever way serves you in the highest and best way. Just take 3 nice deep breaths. I thank my team for following my 60-second request. Thank you so much. We all have teams, by the way. We may not know it, but we all do.
Yeah.
Anything that you would like to share from our conversation today? I would love to hear that if there's still another minute or so. I know we're running over. I warned you about this.
That's okay. I knew Lorraine was going to run over.
I told you.
Yeah, I think for me, just during the process of forgiveness was just that reminder that it's all just part of our journey, and it's all just here to be a learning experience and to help us. And there's, for me, some really difficult things that I've gone through, and it sometimes can be really hard to forgive myself for making the choices that put me in those positions.
Yes.
But now looking back, it's so much easier to know that I needed to have those experiences, because there is value that I learned in those moments that is part of my path moving forward, and part of what I'm here to do and how I'm here to relate to people. And if I hadn't have had those experiences, I wouldn't be able to relate to people the way that I need to in order to follow my path. And so it's interesting looking back at those things and then looking at the things in my life right now that are going on that there's some anger and resentment about, and knowing that there's going to be this moment in the future where I can see it that clearly as well.
What I would say to you is that being able to connect the dots as you have, and hearing you say, I know there will be a time in the future I will see this, make it now. It doesn't have to be a future point. Is look for the nuggets now with the same level of appreciation that you could see it from the past. There's no lag time. There's no have to wait until later to do that.
You're absolutely.
So that's, I offer that to you. You'll save yourself a lot of energy that you don't need to hold.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I imagine there's probably a few other people listening that need to hear that same message too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
I hope that everybody out there listening got as much out of this session and this experience with Lorraine as I did. I know Lorraine has some fabulous free gifts to share with us, including something that's brand new, which just sounds so juicy to me. I want to hear just briefly a little bit more about it. It's all about making drama delicious.
Well, this really fits into our conversation, because when we're in reaction, we create all of this drama, and there's so much negativity about, drama queens and all the different labels that we place on ourselves that make our reactions wrong. So here's an invitation for you to look at drama through a whole new lens that can be empowering for you. And it's a recent conversation. I'm really not going to tell you too much about it because I don't want to spoil your experience with it. It is juicy, and I think that you'll have a number of ahas. I welcome hearing anything from you through my website, LorraineCohen.com, from anything that I've shared on the video, anything from the free gifts. I always love to hear what comes up for people from these experiences. So please don't hold back if you want to connect with me, which I hope that you will.
Yeah, please, ladies, share, and also welcome you to come share in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear what were your ahas from today. If you want to share about what you're forgiving for yourself. I guess I'm forgiving making the bad choices. So I need a new word for that.
How about just making choices and take the word bad out?
Yeah.
Yes. There are no mistakes. Everything is serving us to become the person that we are meant to be. And if we can look at it that every person and situation offers a healing, a growth, and an evolutionary experience, and we never have to feel regret or feel victimized by anyone or anything.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much again, Lorraine.
Thank you as well.
Thank you all for joining us today. Many blessings.